Hello everybody, this is Mayank Burman from IndianLawInfo.com, and today I'll be talking about the making of the Indian Constitution. In this video I'll be going by the facts and also be giving my inputs in between. So the Constitution was prepared because initially Pakistan and India got divided, and that is why it was very important to draft a constitution of our own. The Muslim League pressed for Pakistan and they got Pakistan because they believed that India was an Hindu dominated country and can never satisfy the interests of the Muslims. So they always pressed for a Muslim majority, a northwestern state, and that was Pakistan. So Pakistan had their own constitution, and our Indian constitution was drafted by the Constituent Assembly, which was set up on December 9th, 1946, and the constitution was finally drafted in December 1949, and the first president was Dr. Sachidananda Sinha, who was the provisional president, not the permanent one. The permanent one was Dr. Rajendra Prasad, who was also the first president of India. Now there were 11 sessions during the tenure of the Constituent Assembly, and 165 sittings took place in those 11 sessions. There were 299 members. Now when I say 299 members, it was a huge number, because and to get 299 members from the Congress party, there were 82% of people from the Congress party, and Congress party was a mixture of ideologies. There were many people from different religions, different regions, who had different ideologies. So that was a blessing in disguise for us. The reason being that India uh, was a linguistical country. There were many faiths, many religions. So the Constituent Assembly, if it has been drafted by so many people of so many faiths and religions, it actually represented every single one of us. So 82%, as I said, from the Congress party. The Socialist and the Muslim League generally refused to participate while drafting the Constitution of India. Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, who was also the first law minister of the country, was the chairman of the drafting committee. Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, who was the first prime minister of India, was the pioneer behind moving the objectives resolution, which now is the preamble of the constitution. Now, objectives resolution is one of the sources of a constitution, and it is a very historical resolution. The reason being, it proclaimed India as an independent sovereign republic. Sovereign is that India is unchallengeable, undisputed, and no external power controls it. Republic means that no hereditary power. You cannot hold public offices hereditarily. You have to be either voted, or rather elected directly or indirectly. It guaranteed justice, equality, and freedom to all citizens of India. It assured that safeguards shall be provided for all the minorities, backward, and tribal areas who have often been neglected in the past. Now, by 1949, most of the members of the Constituent Assembly agreed that the resolution of separate electorates is against the interest of the minorities. Many said that separate electorates could actually isolate the minorities and make them more vulnerable against the majority. However, some critics argued that these separate electorates could be, or rather is very, very important for this vulnerable minority, because that's the only way they will be politically represented, like the Muslims, the Jains, the Parsis, the Sikhs, and all those minorities. Because India was a Hindu, or rather is still a Hindu dominated country. And as we all know, India, unlike Pakistan, is a secular country. So separate electorates was in the mind of many Constituent Assembly members. Now, a socialist leader called N.G. Ranga, he urged that the term minority shall be interpreted in economic terms. Ambedkar said that separate electorates for the scheduled caste. Now Gandhiji was against it. Gandhiji said that this will completely isolate the backward or the scheduled caste from the general category, the rest of the society. And he always believed in a society that treated every citizen with equal respect. A country where everybody is treated equally, a country where everybody is represented equally, and not with different terms, especially when it comes to caste and religion. Dr. K. Sandhanam favored the right to the status because he felt reallocation of power was necessary. Now, this is another argument that came up. Now, there was political decentralization in the minds of many people. Now, would the center have all the power, or will you give some power to the states as well? Because if the center is too strong, it could make the states vulnerable. That's point number one. Point number two, if center has all the power and all the burden of doing the work, what will the states do? How will the allocation of resources be vital? How will it be smooth? Number three, if center has all the power, it can break down, it cannot function. That was point number three. So a lot of things came in this aspect as well. Another very major issue in the constituent assembly was the language issue. Till the decade of 1930s, the Congress accepted the Hindustani out to be given the status of national language. Now, Hindustani was a language which was a blend of Hindi and Urdu. Hindi and Urdu are two very prominent languages of the subcontinent. So, even Gandhiji thought that this language represents the masses. It's a common language, it is understood by all, the peasants also. So, why not make this the national language of the country? Opposition from the south did not like that. They said, we don't know Hindustani. What about us? We know English. So Hindustani, if it's made the national language, it will make us vulnerable. So R.B. Dhulekar favored the use of Hindi as the national language and not as an official language. Now he was also a die-hard person who favored Hindi. But again, the south did not like it. So what happened was both English and Hindi were made the official languages of administration, and at the national level, even the Supreme Court actually has English and Hindi both as your official languages. But the states function nowadays in English and the regional language, whichever they wish to. For example, in West Bengal, the work is done in English, and you have another language, Bengali, over here, with which language the work is done. So this is how a compromise was made. Let's not make Hindi the national language, but let us make the official language. That sounds better. And till date, India does not have a national language. There are 22 official languages under the 8th schedule of the Indian Constitution. Also, assembly members wanted the adult to be given the right to vote. Any person above the age of 18 will be given the right to vote, irrespective of his or her caste, creed, religion, sex, place of birth. And this was enshrined in Article 326 of our Constitution. Unlike Britain, where only the men who had access to property were given the right to vote, but it was not so in India. Then fundamental rights were given to the citizens. Now, fundamental rights also, there were right to equality, right to freedom, right against exploitation, right uh, right to freedom of religion, cultural and educational rights, and right to constitutional remedies. Originally, right to property was also a fundamental right, but now it is no longer a fundamental right. Then you have division of power was made between the union and states. Division of power, again, as I had talked about, allocation of powers. Union has some powers, states have some powers. Then there was a concurrent list which has 47 issues in which both the states and the center can exercise their jurisdiction. But if there's a dispute between the two, the centers, the unions decision will prevail. And the judiciary, the most important, the Supreme Court, the High Courts, the tribunals, the district courts, they were made independent of the legislature and the executive. Executive and the legislature does not have any right to interfere in the matters of the judiciary. The Supreme Court is the apex court of the country, and there are 24 high courts currently in India. Our constitution was derived, rather inspired from many sources. There were three. The first one is the Government of India Act of 1935, the Objectives Resolution, which is now the preamble of the country, preamble of the constitution of a country, and the words secular and socialist were added by the 42nd Amendment in 1976, and the constitution of other country. Now, this played a very important role. Many features were borrowed from the constitution of other countries. For example, the directive principles came from the Irish constitution, so on and so forth. Then you have the South African constitution, the German constitution, the British constitution, then the American constitution. So a lot of provisions were rather derived from the constitution of other countries. So our constitution actually reflects the will of the people. It reflects the ideologies, it reflects the common masses, and that is what the Constituent Assembly members actually wanted. A constitution is one of the most important documents of the country. Without it, a country cannot run. Without it, a country cannot have effective governance. So we are lucky to have the world's most precious constitution, and it is the lengthiest written constitution in the world. And it is a duty of the government and the judiciary to, and even us, to actually help it retain its prestige. This is Mayank Burman signing off from IndianLawInfo.com.